This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast, with original independent science fiction, written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've got part 2 of Chapter 28 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her coming up on this episode. Alibi Jones thought a distraction could help them finally escape Lava Lore and Kismet, but he and Katie did not expect Alibi's plan would destroy the city of Kismet. Built originally out of a grounded mobile space platform, the city still had engines beneath its grown-over bulk. Alibi Jones figured he'd turn them on and rock the city a little like an earthquake, creating a distraction that would allow them to get to their ship and get off the planet. But the engines fired too hard initially, creating citywide destruction and devastation as buildings and infrastructure came crashing down. And then, the engines wouldn't shut down. Alibi was locked out of the controls, and the engines fired back up and took off, ripping loose and tearing up through the city, flying up into the air until they just disappeared into Transpace. That was unexpected, to put it mildly. Alibi, Kit, and Katie have managed to survive Alibi's handiwork so far. Can they shake off the shock and find their ship and finally escape Kismet? We shall see in part 2 of Chapter 28 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her coming up on Glow in the Dark Radio. Well, I do have book news this week. As I was telling you last week, I was able to pitch some projects to a studio, thanks to my friend Ben Ferrari, collaborator on many comic book projects over the years. And so he's turned those in. I heard back from the studio, and I now have a meeting set up. So I'll be talking about Vatican Assassin and Alibi Jones and Ancient Stone Mysteries of New England as possible TV series or movie projects. So pretty cool. I'll let you know how that goes. It's going to be in a couple weeks. Again, still very preliminary, but it is kind of cool to make it to the next round, so to speak. Also worth mentioning, now that I have a few details, I've been invited to be part of the Green Mountain Book Festival this year, which is October 18th in Burlington, Vermont, at the Fletcher Free Library in Phoenix Books. It's science fiction based this year, so John Scalzi is the guest of honor, and he'll be doing a keynote kind of thing on that night at 7 p.m., and there's going to be a couple of panels going on. There's going to be one on world building with 3 Vermont-based science fiction writers, and there's going to be one on humor in science fiction, and I'm going to be on that humor one along with Craig Allenson and John Scalzi. Now, I don't know which is going to be which, but one of those panels will be at 1 p.m., one will be at 3 p.m., and then, as I say, the keynote will be about 7 p.m. that night from John Scalzi. So, pretty cool being a part of that. The Green Mountain Book Festival. They haven't gotten their promotional stuff up yet as far as I'm recording this goes, but it may be up by the time you're hearing this. I don't know. But again, that is October 18th. In Burlington, Vermont, the Green Mountain Book Festival. And once again, a thank you to patrons. My patrons keep this whole thing happening. And a thank you to you if you are one. You know who you are. I don't have a lot, but I have some great ones who keep this place going. Keep this thing happening. $2, $5, or $10 a month. You can do so yourself. If you want to join in, I'd love to have you. Just head over to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, and you can learn more there or even sign up and become a patron. Love to have you again. We will get into part 2 of chapter 28 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her coming up next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Hi, I'm JC. My co-host Cindy and I host the Fix It Home Improvement Podcast. We cover projects that every homeowner should know and top-rated products for home and garden. And for fans of Mike, we keep you posted on new smart home systems and products like robot vacuums and robot lawnmowers that seemed like science fiction not too long ago. You can check it out on your favorite podcast app. It's Fix It, F-I-X-I-T, Home Improvement.
Now here's part 2 of chapter 28 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on Glow in the Dark Radio. What? Alibi is shocked. I didn't set any Transpace coordinates. I didn't even turn on the engine's Transpace devices. Why did they do that? He looks at the fiery ruins of the Kismet platform. I didn't mean for it to go this way. To end like this. An explosion rocks them sideways as a fuel supply in the city erupts in a ball of fire behind them. We need to keep running. Get to Thomas's ship before someone else steals it. Katie urges Alibi to turn and run. He's still dazed by his destruction. There's another crackling peal of thunder. One of the engines reappears in the sky over them, jumping out of Transpace, ripping a hole in the air above the bay. Its thrust spent, the now inert mass drops like a spinning boulder into the water, sending up a huge, splashing plume. Alibi begins running again, and catches up to Katie and Kit, already on the move. The road winds down to the waterfront. Alibi, Katie and Kit, and those around them jog, walk, and run down the road towards the spaceport. Thunder peals again. With a flash, there's another engine in the air above them. It rips out of Transpace over their heads, looming large in the sky, and then larger as it seems to aim directly for Alibi. He runs as fast as his legs will carry him away from the plummeting mass of metal. Woof! Alibi is thrown forward by the impact as the engine hits behind him. Oof! Landing on his chest, he gets the wind knocked out of him. Slowly, he stands back up and looks back at the crater and the engine, now a misshapen, crushed cone and tangled mass of tubes, pipes, and wires, blackened by a quick trip through the atmosphere. Katie gets up off the ground. Kit is already standing. Alibi backs away from the engine and rejoins them. The gates of the port are just ahead. No one is checking any credentials at the gate as panicked masses pour through. Floaters fly overhead unimpeded. Ground cars roll past them without facing any checkpoints or stops. Most people walk and run toward the commercial carriers and their terminals. Alibi, Katie, and Kit veer off to find Bay 134 and Brady Thomas's ship. The ID codes on the key lead them to the private bays. The opening from the access road to each central hub is wide enough for 2 cars to pass. The trio try to look inconspicuous as they make their way down the road to Thomas's Bay. Nobody seems to notice them. Everyone is too busy looking out for themselves. Each set of 5 bays spoke off from a central hub. The open front of the bays and the central hub make each set look like flowers from above. Ships rise up out of the bays like swarms of bees leaving a burning hive. Thomas's ship is waiting for them in Bay 134. Alibi opens the vessel with the ship's keys Thomas gave him, and Katie and Kit climb on board. Alibi walks around the outside of the ship to check fuel levels and energy reserves. There's plenty of fuel, but the energy reserves are running low. Alibi hooks up a feeder line, although he doesn't know if there's any power left in the port's energy grid. They're lucky. There's at least a little left for them. As the ship powers up, Alibi walks around Thomas's ship doing a visual inspection. The ship looks good. No problems he can see at any rate. He checks the energy line again. The grid is now dead. He didn't get much juice from it, but there is enough to get the engines up and running. There's still plenty of fuel, but Alibi doesn't need it. The ship's supply is full. Alibi disconnects the energy line and walks it back out to the central hub. A large hover car lands nearby, and 3 mechanically enhanced Kismet Guardians emerge, each carrying an energy rifle. Lava Lure gets out of the car behind them, along with a sharply dressed woman with short black hair. At first they don't see Alibi. Apparently, Lava Lure's own escape ship is parked nearby. Alibi tries to duck around the supply hub to stay out of sight. "I have the best luck," Alibi says. One of the guardsmen overhears. "You! Hold it right there!" he shouts at Alibi. Lava Lure turns to look. His eyes grow wide when he sees Alibi. "You! Again!" Lava Lure shouts. "Now I do know who you are, Alibi Jones. Peterson warned you for me. Set foot on Kismet and you're a dead man. I keep my promises." Lava Lure turns to the woman and his guardsmen. "Kill him!" Trying to keep the hub between him and the guardsmen, Alibi turns on a fuel line and sprays ship's fuel at the guardsmen and Lava Lure. As the fuel gushes out faster and faster, Alibi dares to step out from behind the hub to direct the spray point blank at the nearest guardsman. Their bodies may be cybernetically enhanced, but apparently their brains aren't enhanced by much in the way of common sense. The guardsman turns and fires at Alibi. Alibi drops the still-flowing fuel line as the energy bolts ignite the fuel around him. He runs with an eye back on the guardsman, who now bats at bright blue flames leaping up his body, as if he was trying to shoo away bugs. Too busy to fire again, the man is consumed by the flames, turning into a walking pyre, until he drops down to his knees and collapses, melting in a puddle of flaming fuel. Alibi runs towards Thomas's cruiser, with the other 2 guardsmen advancing on him. He's almost at the ship. He turns in time to see the nearest guard raise his gun to fire. Flash! The guardsman takes an energy bolt to the chest and stumbles. Alibi turns back to see Katie has left Brady's ship and reappeared next to him. She's lowering the rifle in her hands and has another one slung over her shoulder. "Hey," she says, "Thomas had guns on the ship. Here." She tosses the rifle in her hands to Alibi and swings the rifle on her back around. She fires again at the downed guardsman. Flash! "Thanks," Alibi says. "I owed you," she says. "Now I don't. Let's go." "Wait, hold on." Flash! She hits another guardsman. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" Alibi asks her as they close the distance to the ship. "We're armed when we go out on the retrieval missions. They teach us how to shoot," she explains. Whoosh! A bolt hits Katie in the shoulder, and her rifle goes scuttling away. "Ow, that fucking hurts!" she shouts. "Get to the ship," Alibi tells her. "I'll cover you." "You know how to shoot?" she asks. "Safe training," he tells her. He lifts the rifle and sights the well-dressed woman. She's aiming at him at the same time. Flash! Alibi is the faster shot, but he misses his target. He'd only wanted to hit the gun, not the woman. But she goes down when the bolt hits her head instead of her weapon. Alibi scans through the sight and sees Lava Lure trying to get a bead on him. He shoots and hits the gun out of Lava Lure's hands. His gun I hit? Damn. Alibi stops backing up and instead advances on Lava Lure. He shoots an energy bolt at the man's feet. Flash! Lava Lure jumps and stumbles away from the fire. Alibi shoots the ground next to him. Flash! Lava Lure is knocked on his back. Alibi advances and stands over him with his rifle ready. "I've called more guardsmen," Lava Lure says. "If you were smart, you'd leave now, while you can." "I should kill you," Alibi says. "You should kill me," Lava Lure says. "I will kill you. first chance I get, if you don't. I was just playing with you. I bought your man, Brady Thomas. He would have turned on you and turned you over if he'd lived. You're lying, Alibi says. You didn't know who I was. I didn't know you on sight, you're right. But I knew who you were, and what you were doing. Like hell you did, Alibi scoffs. You'll never know, Lavalore says. Alibi sights his rifle on the man's groin. I don't have to kill you. Could just maim you, Alibi says. Maybe we can make a deal, Lavalore says. Alibi looks up at the smoking ruins of Kismet. Doesn't look like you've got much left to deal with. Not here and now, thanks to you. But my wealth is spread far beyond Kismet. This is not my only wealth. I have many holdings. I have recovered amazing artifacts that once belonged to the ancient enemy. Maybe we can trade? Your life for some alien bauble? Some museum piece? Alibi taunts him. I don't think so. I'm not talking about museum pieces, Mr. Jones. I'm talking about ancient weapons, powerful devices once employed by the ancient enemy. I could give you the charts and directions to find one for yourself. Next, he'll be offering me the travel chair. Been there, done that. An empty promise of ancient riches for your life? Alibi asks. You don't value your life too much, do you? No, I do, Lavalore insists. How can I trust that you weren't sending me off on some wild goose chase? Alibi questions him. I'll give you full documentation. Ever hear of the Throne of Inokata? It gives the user the ability to travel by thought. I have found it. It's on the mad planet Metcalf. I can lead you there. It can be yours. It was mine. Alibi breaks the news to Lavalore. I traded it for something else I needed. You were the one who found it? You were the one who had the chair and gave it away? Lavalore questions him. What do you know about that? Alibi asks, suspicious. You are a fool, Lavalore shouts up at him. Flash! Ah! Lavalore shrieks as an energy bolt rips into his shoulder. Alibi looks at his gun. He didn't fire. Kitty walks up next to Alibi with her rifle in her other hand. Your guy shot my shooting shoulder, Lavalore. I'm shooting with my bad hand, Katie says. Otherwise you'd be dead. She looks at Alibi. Why haven't you killed him? In cold blood? He asks her. He'd kill you, she says. I told him that, Lavalore says. Shut up, Alibi and Katie say in unison. Then Katie shoots Lavalore in the knee. Flash! A shadow covers them as a hovercar appears. Reinforcements, Lavalore declares as the car lowers. Let's go, Alibi says. He and Katie back away from Lavalore, each with their rifle trained on the man. Lavalore props himself up on his good knee and struggles up onto his feet. He begins limping away, crossing the central hub on his way to his ship. Ah, hell, Katie says. She shoots at the pool of fuel that Lavalore is limping through. Flash! The fuel explodes into bright blue flames. Shoom! The flames engulf Lavalore as the hovercar lands next to him. Ah! Lavalore tries to tamp out the flames, burning up his clothes. As Kismet guardsmen emerge from the hovercar, he shouts for their help. Help me! Over here! Help me! Alibi and Katie reach Thomas's ship. They shut out the sound of Lavalore's screams as they close the airlock door behind them. As the inner door cycles open, Alibi turns on Katie. Why did you do that? Do what? She asks. Why'd you shoot the fuel there just now? Why didn't you? She demands of him. You've really got to learn to do things for yourself. No, I don't, he argues. I'm not a sociopath. Oh, and I am, she flares. Fuck you, Alibi. Get us the fuck out of here, so I can get away from you forever. Great, he says. He runs for the bridge, with his heart dragging behind him. No time to get sentimental now, Alibi. Gotta go. He fires up the power plant and gets the engines running. Out of the ship's front viewport, he can see the guardsmen putting out the fires on Lavalore. He watches the scene as the ship's engines power up. Amazingly, the burnt lava lure stands. His skin is still smoking. He shakes a guardsman off of him. He limps into the shadows of a distant bay, followed by 7 cybernetic Kismet guardsmen. "Why haven't we taken off?" Katie asks him as she walks onto the bridge. "We needed to power up some first." "Shit! Look, Alibi! Lava Lure's ship is taken off!" "Have a seat," Alibi says, nodding at the co-pilot's chair. "Why should I?" she says, defiant. "Jeesh, Katie," Alibi sighs. "The ship's weapons controls are there. Since I powered up our power plant, you can actually use the ship's guns. You fire while I get us the fuck out of here." Alibi gets the cruiser up off the ground. Katie fires the ship's guns, but the blasts glance off Lava Lure's rising ship. "He's got his shields powered up," she says. "And now," Alibi says, "so do we. Good thing he's shooting at us." Ka-thang! The energy bolts glance off their shields as the cruiser rises up into the atmosphere. As the engines propel the ship past escape velocity, they also generate additional energy for the ship's power plant. Alibi directs more power to the shields as Lava Lure's cruiser fires at them again. King-ong! There's a bump. They're shaken, but there's no real contact. "We've got a security platform coming up," Katie says as she scans the tactical display. Alibi reverses thrust and slows their ship. He risks a close-up shot from Lava Lure's ship as he lets them pass on the ascent. Lava Lure's cruiser takes the opportunity and fires a barrage of energy bolts. Alibi gives the starboard shields more juice to deflect the assault. Alibi drops their cruiser back some more. Once Lava Lure's ship is ahead of them, Alibi maneuvers around to put Lava Lure's cruiser between their ship and the security platform. "Okay, Katie, heat 'em up. Let's distract the orbital's attention." Katie draws down the power reserve to return fire with a plasma bolt that hits the cruiser's rear end just over its engines. Lava Lure's ship's shields dissipate some of the plasma energy, but the bolt does damage, burning a hole through the cruiser's infrastructure. The rear of Lava Lure's cruiser is aglow as oxygen burns off. Alibi talks to himself under his breath. "Come on, come on, come on." "Wish Krish was here. He could probably short-circuit the platform, save us all this anxiety." "Any more return fire?" Alibi asks. "Nope. Think that surprised him," Katie says. "Nice shooting," Alibi compliments her. "Watch that platform. We might have to take out its guns if it sees past Lava Lure's ship. I'm plotting a transpace jump." She doesn't answer, but studies the tactical display for signs of opposition. "Here we go!" Alibi punches in the coordinates, and their ship flashes into transpace. Lava Lure's cruiser attempts to follow, flashing into transpace soon after the other ship, trying to stay on their trail. That was the second part 2 of Chapter 28 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her, part of the Adventures of Alibi Jones, Chronological Omnibus on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. And they're off. Maybe. Looks like Lava Lure is on their tail, if he can follow them through Transpace. But Alibi, Katie, and Kit seem to have finally escaped Kismet. We'll follow them and follow their escape in Chapter 29 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on our next episode of Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. And again, looking at book news, I'm going to be doing a panel on humor and sci-fi along with John Scalzi and Craig Allenson as part of the Green Mountain Book Festival coming up October 18th in Burlington, Vermont. I'll have more details on that as we get a little closer. And I'm going to be doing a meeting to talk about turning Alibi Jones, Vatican Assassin, and Ancient Stone Mysteries of New England into TV or movie projects. So that's in the works, which is cool too. So a little bit of book news to share. We'll see what happens. Of course, the Green Mountain Book Festival is an actual thing that's happening, so you can come to that. As I say, more details as we get a little bit closer. And again, thank you to patrons who help keep this whole thing happening and keep the podcast going. If you want to become a patron, head to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, and you can do so for $2, $5, or $10 a month and get some benefits out of it too, like early episodes. Patrons are getting this one early. And that is all for this week. I am your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio. Glow in the Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2025 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.